My name is Rachel, and I'm the outreach coordinator for JDRF Middle and East Tennessee. And advocacy is just so important to JDRF, especially right now. I mean, always, but it just feels like right now we have to come together even louder to really fight through some things and get our voices heard. So with that, we have Sally Allen, who is our Middle Tennessee Advocacy Chair, and Flash Black, to say that 3 times fast, the Advocacy Chair, and they are both amazing warriors for people with type 1 like me, and they are very much appreciated in our community. And with that said, Sally and Flash, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves a little bit and share why advocacy is important to you, and what your type 1 connection is.
Sure. So for me, my type 1 connection is my son, Garrett. He was diagnosed at 20 months old. And it's actually kind of funny. We are moving some things around, as everybody I think has in COVID, and organizing some things. And we found yesterday his Children's Congress scrapbook. And he was just 4 when he went to Children's Congress. He was one of the little ones there. And looking back at that, and looking back at, we actually found our binder from when he was diagnosed, you know, and where you wrote every little thing down, and all of those things. And so it was kind of a little trip down memory lane there yesterday looking at those. But he was diagnosed at just 20 months. And so we just had his 10-year die-anniversary in December. And you know, it's been a long road, as you're well aware, and as anyone that is watching this or will watch this knows. It's a daily struggle, and we are hitting those preteen years. He's 12 now, so those are lots of fun on their own, but they're even more fun now with this daily, you know, constant friend that we have with us, you know, everywhere we go. So he's kind of my why, and he is what really drives me forward and wants encourages me, I think, to keep going and to do things like this, and you know, participate in the walk. The walk's always been really important to our family. Participate in Summit and those kinds of things. So.
My name is Flash Black. I've been involved since 1995. I'm at my mom's house. I was driving, and so I stopped by here so I could do the interview. You see Rock's picture there when he was a very young child. It's hard to believe, even at that age, he had diabetes. He was diagnosed at age 2. So he's had diabetes now 25 years. So I've been involved the entire 25 years, and I remember the walks from back when we had them at the zoo to down at Volunteer Landing and now at the World's Fair Park. I've been to galas. I've seen all the different honorees we've had over the year from Mike Campbell. I remember the gala when we had Nicole Johnson, Miss America, was there. Kevin Klein came to one of our galas. We had several other dignitaries from Knoxville that were at different galas, Bruce Pearl and others. But Rock keeps me motivated. He does an amazing job with his attitude. I'm still working on his motivation on managing his diabetes. I read a ton of books on motivating people to take action. They've helped me tremendously on sales, but not as much yet on motivating Rock. So maybe you all could give me some ideas on that.
Well, as an adult with type 1, I can just tell you, sometimes nothing works and you just have to wait it out. You just have to wait for something to happen to make yourself want to really just claw its eyes out and get by the horns. Thank you so much for sharing your personal stories. Tell us a little bit about what JDRF advocates actually do. Like, what are the actual physical things that people who want to be an advocate do?
Well, I'll kind of start, and then Flash, if you want to jump in. I think for Flash and I, you know, we kind of get the fun part. You know, we're able to do things like this. We're able to go to things that we mentioned, like the walk and summit and gala and all of those things, and really talk on a larger platform about advocacy and JDRF, but really with folks in the JDRF community, you know, to encourage them to participate and to be a part. One of the best things that we get to do, and where that really, I think, our relationships and bonds are formed, are when we're able to go to DC once a year. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that this year, but where we really come together. And I think that what Flash and our friend Daryl out of West Tennessee and I have really tried to do over the last, probably 5 or 6 years, Flash, I guess we've been together, that, you know, we really have formed a really great cohesive unit within our state, where that we as a group go and really lobby our congressional members and our senators and really spread the message of why diabetes research funding is so important in the state of Tennessee. We tell our personal stories. You know, Flash and my story are very similar because our sons were both diagnosed around the same age. Obviously, his is an adult now. Daryl is a type 1 himself. And so, you know, we're all at different stages in that process. And so I think that gives us a really good cohesive message that we're able to really share with those lawmakers. And I know, Rachel, you've sat in a couple of those meetings with us when you just happened to be in town. And, you know, I think those are an important part of what we do. But I think from a local level, what we hope, when we speak at these kinds of things, that we hope happens is that we encourage others to use their voice locally. And so we've got some exciting things coming up, especially now with COVID. They're changing a little bit, but you know, that local folks can get involved in. And I think, Flash, do you want to talk about that a little bit, what it means to do it locally?
Right, because for a member of Congress or a senator, when they hear the word constituent and think of their constituents, then that translates to votes. So it's very important for them to get a heartbeat of what's on the mind of their constituents. The more people that we can get involved and say, hey, insulin affordability is a problem right now, we'd like you to take some measures in Congress to make it more affordable. Or insurance coverage isn't what it should be on a continuous glucose monitor right now. We'd like you to help us with that. I remember one time I was talking to a member of the House, one of his assistants, and he said that the congressman had asked him to keep a tally that day of how many people called in. There was a certain number they were looking to hit. And it's amazing how supportive, because of the people doing the grassroots advocacy, how supportive our senators and congressmen are, especially in Tennessee. We're very blessed to have some outstanding senators and congressmen. They're making a tremendous difference. But people on the local level, next month we have a Promise to Remember Me campaign. That's when we're meeting normally in the local district offices. We're going to do it virtually, but we take a family or two with us, and we'll have a family or two with us on the call. They can have a young child on that call and show the senator, show the member of Congress, look, I have this technology because you voted to renew the special diabetes program. I have this technology because you voted to keep the funding strong for the National Institute of Health. You are making a difference in my life. Promise to remember me. That makes an impact because they have so many people coming in asking them for things. We've got to have something that anchors it in their mind.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about things that JDRF does advocate for? And you, like you mentioned, the Special Diabetes Project as well.
Flash, you want to jump on that, or you want me to?
Oh, either one. You go.
You can go. I'll let.
Okay. Well, I know, for instance, when we first started, there wasn't even guidelines on how to do the at-home testing on a continuous glucose monitor. This was 9 years ago. And we worked with the FDA, and we actually wrote the guidelines for them. We said, here's what you need to be looking for when you do the at-home test, when you start with the in-hospitalization test. So there's some things that you don't even think about at first that advocacy is involved in. Then continuous glucose monitors, when they came out at first, insurance companies weren't going to cover them. They thought, well, we're not sure that they would really make that much of a difference on your A1C, your blood glucose levels. We funded tests to show conclusively that the A1Cs dropped significantly when a person was using a continuous glucose monitor. Right now, insulin affordability, Congressman Burchett was working very hard on that before COVID. And he had contacted Attorney General Barr and told him, we need to do an investigation into insulin pricing. It's getting out of control. We need to help the people that can't afford it.
Yeah, and I think those are, you know, when we go in and talk, generally speaking, I think insulin affordability was going to be one of those talking points this year. The STP is always important. The special diabetes program is such an important part. And I think that, you know, really before I got involved in advocacy, had never even heard of that. I didn't know what that was. Even in my kind of limited view of JDRF, being involved in the walk and things like that, I had just not heard of that, and I didn't realize the impact. You know, that's $150 million a year in research dollars, and so it is so important. And what I think is important, and what Flash and Daryl and I always try to point out when we're in office, is that not only are we asking for that money, obviously, from the government, that we need that funding for research, but in turn, JDRF is also, you know, giving. Oftentimes matching that dollar amount, you know, over the course of time. And so I think that those are the things that are also important to note, that all of these walks and the galas and all of those kinds of things are going towards that, you know, we're giving as much as we're asking for to help further those kinds of things. And I think that that's where we're at right now. Is we've been very fortunate that they've kind of you know, given us a little, I don't know what the right word is, but Band-Aid to get us through the next part and get us through the next part, you know, because this has been such a crazy year for everybody. But we're really pushing for a multi-year renewal on that. And that's so important because of the research that's going on. And, you know, you can't just slow your research down and cross your fingers that, you know, you're going to get that money for the next step, the next stage. And so that's what's so important for us to be able to secure that early if we can, and to have that, you know, so we like to secure it in the early fall. So we're hopeful that, you know, that'll be back on the docket, and we'll be able to get that renewed for a multi-year renewal this time. But that's where, as Flash said, it's so important that you participate in those emails and those, you know, calls to action that we have. I know we all get 1,000 emails, and we like to just delete them. And I think that it's so important to open those JDRF emails and see about those calls to action, because like Flash said, there are some of those congressional members who have said, you know, we take a tally, we notice. And so, you know, taking that 3 or 4 minutes to simply send that email, or picking up the phone to call and to literally just say, I support this bill. I support, you know, this funding or whatever. You don't have to know a lot. You don't have to give them all this research and all this background. You simply just have to be able to say, this is important to me and to my family. And so being able to do that really does make a difference. And that's a big way that everybody can be an advocate, can be a part of this.
Absolutely. I can speak from personal experience too. As Sally mentioned, I did get to sit in a couple meetings in DC when I was randomly there for something else. It just happened to be there at the same time. And then I've also got to meet with some local representatives, and it really is so important. They do listen to you and they want to hear from us. Mm-hmm. So how, Flash and Sally, you've convinced everyone watching this that they need to sign up to be an advocate right now. They are ready to jump in. So how would they go about doing that?
Well, the good news is it's super easy. You can go to JDRF.com, and I actually had it up on my computer, but I think it's timed out. You can actually go to JDRF.com and
.org, yes.
.org, yes. I'm so sorry. Thank you. And go to advocacy. You can actually, I think it's /advocacy, but you can go to that site. There's lots of great information out there too on what advocacy is doing, what it's all about. And you can sign up that way. That's probably the easiest way right now to go in and sign up. And then once you do that, based on wherever you are in the world, there are folks like Flash and I who are stationed throughout the United States and even in other countries that then will reach out to you and let you know. But the biggest thing is you'll get on that list to get those emails and to get those heads up. But as Flash said, we're starting that Promise to Remember Me campaign here in July. And so we are going to do that virtually. So it's going to be done much like this is done. And we need a whole bunch of people to be on that call. We need a lot of advocates and a lot of families, those children. I think it's important for folks like Garrett to jump on at 12 and be a part of that and be able to sit in and say, hey, this is why this is important to me. This is what I need. And so, we want everybody to be a part of that. And so in order for you to know that that's going on, we need you to go on and sign up to be an advocate.
Absolutely. And for parents of kids with type 1 watching, this is such a great way to get your kids involved. If I were diagnosed as a kid, I would have loved to be able to do something like this. Admittedly, I was a huge nerd as a child. It not only helps your child just get exposed to a new experience, it also helps us because, look, I'm going to be honest, a legislator is going to look at me and not feel too sorry for me. I'm a grown woman. I can take care of myself. There's not a whole lot of heartstrings being tugged by me telling my story, which is kind of true, kind of not true. But if you have a precious Garrett Allen telling his story, showing his CGM, that is impactful. That is powerful. Heck, I don't feel sorry for me most of the time, but when I see a kid with diabetes, I just cry because there's absolutely no reason why a child should have to live with diabetes. So it's super important. Get your kids involved, get involved. Flash, Sally, are there any other closing remarks or anything else you want to mention about advocacy, the importance, what we're doing, or just anything else?
Go ahead, Flash. No, go.
I was just going to say the Special Diabetes Program started 23 years ago, 1997. Currently, as Sally mentioned, it was extended as part of the CARES Act at the beginning of this year, but it's set to expire at the end of October. There'll be action alerts coming up later this summer, encouraging to contact your member of the House and then also your senators. And it's very automated. Sally said it takes less than 5 minutes. This is so important because if it expires one time, it'll be very hard to ever get it started, pretty much impossible to get it started again. It's super important. And then one final note, Rachel Mayo and Sally Allen are both amazing rock stars. It's such a blessing to work with both of them.
Thank you, Flash.
Traditional Flash right there. Flash is an institution all of his own here in Tennessee. Don't let him fool you.
That's right.
But I think that Flash is right. I think that's the biggest thing. I think our hope is by doing this and by talking with you is really just to get that word out. I think it's so important to take part. I think for me, advocacy, because Garrett was so young, was a way that I felt like that I could do something. And it started on that small local level where that I just, participated in email alerts and phone call actions and those kinds of things, participated in the walk. That's its own form of advocacy. And then, took that up another step and was able to do some of these interactions locally with our state reps and things like that. And then, eventually transitioned into this role. And so I think that for me, even on those days when I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't handle anything else, we've got to schedule this meeting or we need to do this or whatever. Every single time I walk away from an advocacy event, I feel so just energized and so excited about where we're going. And I really do feel like that we are getting closer. And I know all of us, our ultimate goal is a cure. And I do hope and pray every day that will happen in Garrett's lifetime. But I also have seen, and I know, Rachel, you have too, because I've seen your social media, I've seen what a difference this research that we are helping fund has made in our lives. You know, Garrett's gone on the new T-Slim and the Control IQ. And I was sharing in our small group the other day. Yeah. You know, it's amazing how something so small can make such a huge difference. And that Control IQ on the T-Slim pump, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go out and look at it. This is not a commercial, but please do. You know, because it works with the CGM, we just had his Vanderbilt checkup about 2 weeks ago, and he dropped a full point. His A1C dropped like 1.2 points or whatever, which is huge at 12 because Lord knows his body doesn't even know what it's doing right now. And they told us like this pre-adolescent, prepubescent, whatever age, you know, is going to be the worst ever to go through, just in general with life. But, you know, with diabetes is another thing. And so that Control IQ has really, I've just been so amazed. And his swings are so much less, and he is high very few times. You know, I think our problem now, it talks about motivation. Flash is charging the darn thing. You know, at the beach, we forgot to charge it. So he went really high overnight because it died. And then, you know, obviously he paid the price because it took him all morning to come down. And so that made the beach not very fun that day. So I think that it's those kinds of things, for me, is what keep me going and keep me motivated, because I see it's even the little things, you know, the meter that lights up so you don't have to turn on the light. You know, all those things that come out of research that we have helped fund and that we have helped do. And that's why it's important to do those walks and to raise that money, whether you're raising $100 or $100,000. That really, in the grand scheme of things, every one of those is so important. If you attend the gala, or you are a part of the runs, you know, we just did that Ragnar run, or you're part of the ride, or whatever it is, every single thing like that is so important. And we are using all of those dollars so efficiently. Flash is always the first one to say in all of our congressional meetings, we are, you know, what is it? One of the top businesses or organizations or whatever.
Yeah, the leading organization funding research for the improved management and eventual cure of diabetes.
Yeah. And we use that money wisely. So I think that's what's so important. So there are 100 ways that you can be an advocate, I think. And I think that you just have to find what works best for you and your family. I think you're right. Getting your child involved is so important. And it may be that your child writes their own letter, or colors their own picture, or whatever it may be, and that you send those in. Those are important. They do get noticed. And maybe you attach a little note with that says, you know, this is our story. This is why this is important. Because they really are reading those, and they are paying attention. There is someone in that office who is looking at all of that information.
Absolutely. Here's the thing is all the research, all the great things that people are able to take advantage of right now regarding their diabetes management started with advocacy. It's advocacy. So this is why we need to have a strong presence in the advocacy realm. And Sally's right. There are so many ways to get involved. You don't have to meet with your legislators. We'd love for you to, but can understand that's intimidating to some people. Sometimes just talking about diabetes with your friends, with your family members, with the person at the store who asks if this is a nicotine patch, educating people is also a form of advocacy. So we got a lot of stuff coming up. The campaign that starts in July, huge thing, and we're gonna really want to recruit people for that. If anyone has any questions about advocacy, please, I know that Sally and Flash will both be happy to answer your questions. You can email me as well, and I will forward you to Flash personally, because they are so much more knowledgeable than I am, and they're probably just more fun to talk to. I appreciate Sally and Flash. I mean, you guys know how important this work is, and as someone with type 1, I mean, just, it means the world to me. And you guys are amazing. Again, any questions, please let us know. Otherwise, we're going to sign off.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel. We appreciate you organizing this for us.
Absolutely.
Right. Thanks for the opportunity. Fantastic opportunity.